Bulls Piston rival was war. Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Kavis, man. We back with another video. We back with another reaction. Y'all see the title and thumbnail of this video, man. Yeah, so we finna get into it, man. It's finna be a good video. Get your popcorn ready and let's get into it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, man. Let's go. Let's do it.
This wasn't just basketball. This was war. By 1991, Michael Jordan had already built a resume most players could only dream of. Rookie of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, 5 straight scoring titles, and a reputation as the league's most unstoppable scorer. But for all of his trophies and highlights, one thing eluded him: a championship. And one team stood in his way. The Detroit Pistons weren't just defending champions, they were back-to-back kings of 89 and 90. And they didn't just beat teams, they broke them. They were the bad boys. A wall of pain built on hard screens, body checks, and relentless pressure. Every drive to the basket meant bruises. Every series left scars. And yet, one man refused to stay down. No matter how many times they knocked him to the floor, Michael Jordan kept getting back up, again and again, until finally he broke through. This is the real story of Bulls vs Pistons, a rivalry that was as brutal as it was emotional. It wasn't just about wins and losses, it was about respect, revenge, and rising above the pain. In 1991, everything changed. One dynasty ended, another was born. Now, the rivalry between the Chicago Bulls...
You know it's crazy? Isaiah and Michael Jordan still don't like each other to this day, bro.
Detroit Pistons during the late 1980s and the early 1990s was one of the most heated in all of professional sports. To say these two teams hated each other would be an understatement. They didn't just clash, they collided over and over. And the tension wasn't random, it felt designed, like two forces built to oppose each other. Drawn into conflict, not just by competition, but by identity. At first glance, it looked like a standard Midwest rivalry. Two cities, just a short drive apart, fighting for regional bragging rights. But this was deeper than geography. It was pride, culture, class. Detroit, the tough, working-class town, built on the back of factories and steel-toed hustle. Chicago, shinier and more glamorous, with its big city lights and booming sports media machine. One city is known for blue-collar workers, the other is known for bright lights. The teams mirrored their cities. The Pistons were gritty, physical, and unapologetically nasty. They didn't care about being liked, they embraced being the villain. They played hard, fouled harder, and made it their mission to break opponents, both mentally and physically. They were blue-collar basketball in its purest form. The Bulls were the opposite. Led by a rising icon in Michael Jordan, they were fast, flashy, and clean. Jordan was graceful, explosive, and polished, on and off the court. He wasn't just a star, he was the star. Marketable, magnetic, everything the NBA wanted to put on billboards and into living rooms. But on the other side was Isaiah Thomas. He didn't play for Chicago, but he was Chicago. Born and raised on the west side, raised tough, played tougher. He had street ball edge, that fire. But when he returned to his hometown wearing a Pistons jersey, the love wasn't there. The city didn't welcome him. The fans didn't cheer for him. They gave their hearts to Michael Jordan instead. That stung.
That's probably why too. I never knew that. That could be the reason why too, man. Listen, I'm from Chicago. This is Isaiah's point of view, probably. I'm from Chicago. I done made it to the league. I going back home. Y'all ain't even cheering me. Y'all cheering Michael Jordan. A person who ain't even from Chicago. Yeah, somebody gonna have to make a statement, man. We finna make a statement, a hard statement, man.
Stayed with him. It's long been rumoured that Isaiah played a role in the infamous freeze-out during the 1985 All-Star Game, where Jordan, despite a brilliant rookie season, barely touched the ball. He scored just 7 points and took fewer than 10 shots, while Isaiah dropped 22. Thomas had always denied freezing him out, but whether or not it was true, the tension was real. The pride, the rejection, the rivalry, it all created the perfect emotional firestorm. Bulls versus Pistons wasn't just basketball, it was personal. It was war, and it became one of the most violent and emotionally charged rivalries the NBA has ever seen. What made this rivalry so intense wasn't just the hatred, it was how different these two teams were. The Pistons entered the 1980s as shadows of a once respected franchise, badly in need of change. That change began when they hired Jack McCloskey as general manager, a former head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. McCloskey was respected across the league for his basketball mind. But less than 2 months into the job, he made a bold move, trading away Bob Lanier, the team's all-time leading scorer, to the Milwaukee Bucks. It didn't matter that Lanier was a Pistons legend. McCloskey was ready to cut ties with the past and rebuild from the ground up. And it was the first big step towards moving to a new identity. But McCloskey wasn't done. He kept making moves, reshaping the roster piece by piece. What he still needed, though, was a leader. And with the number 2 pick in the 1981 NBA draft, he found one. Isaiah Thomas, a fearless point guard who had just led Indiana University to an NCAA title, was everything McCloskey was looking for. Small in size, but huge in presence. Isaiah had the toughness, talent, and leadership that could carry a franchise. McCloskey later said, "I saw him play in college, and I can't even recall who they were playing, but I remember thinking it was almost a perfect game. I wrote in my notes that his leadership qualities were immense, and just like that, the climb began." Isaiah Thomas quickly proved he was the real deal. Year after year, he averaged between 18 and 20 points, along with 7 to 11 assists and 1 or 2 steals. He was a complete player, smart, skilled, and fearless. By 1982, GM Jack McCloskey made another move, trading Greg Kelser to Seattle for a third-year guard, Vinnie Johnson, a tough scorer off the bench. But McCloskey didn't earn the nickname Trader Jack by sitting still. Just minutes before the 1982 trade deadline, he pulled off another deal, this time bringing in center Bill Laimbeer, who would become a key player for the Pistons.
The dirtiest player ever, man.
The Pistons finished with a 39-43 record, but the roster wasn't clicking yet. The following year, things got worse. They won just 37 games, but scoring wasn't the issue. The Pistons just couldn't stop anyone. So McCloskey made a tough call. He fired head coach Scotty Robertson and brought in someone who saw the game the same way he did, Chuck Daly. Daly preached defense, toughness, accountability, and under his leadership, the Pistons began to form a new identity, one built on grit, intensity, and physical play. In 1984, with essentially the same roster, Daly led Detroit to 49-33 record and a return to the playoffs. The foundation of the Bad Boys was officially being laid. Ironically, 1984 was also the year the Chicago Bulls' fortunes began to change. They needed a star, a player who could build a franchise around, and the 1984 NBA draft was stacked with talent. Houston had the first pick and took Hakeem Olajuwon. That left Chicago sweating it out, hoping Portland would pass on a young guard out of North Carolina named Michael Jordan. The Trailblazers already had Clyde Drexler and needed a big man, so they chose Sam Bowie. Chicago didn't hesitate. They took Jordan third overall. Everyone
just what if Michael went to Trailblazers? What if? Just like with Kobe, what if he would have went to Charlotte? Boy.
He was special. No one knew just how special. But while the Bulls were still building their team, between 1985 and 1986, the Pistons added the final pieces that would complete their transformation. Joe Dumas, Rick Mahorn, Dennis Rodman, and John Saley all joined the team during this period. These weren't just good players, they were fierce competitors. They brought toughness, attitude, and a refusal to back down. This wasn't a typical NBA roster. This was a group carefully built to be a problem. They didn't just play the game, they made it painful. In an era that celebrated flash and finesse, the Pistons embraced grit and earned the nickname that would define them, the Bad Boys. At the heart of it all was Isaiah Thomas, Just 6'2", Isaiah might have been small, but he played with the heart of a giant. He refused to be bullied and never backed down from a fight. He was intense, fearless, and often right in the middle of the action when things got heated. Then there was Bill Laimbeer, the ultimate enforcer. Laimbeer was rough, physical, and downright dirty in the eyes of opponents. Fans of other teams hated him, but Detroit loved him. He wasn't just a defender, he was a disruptor. He got in your head, under your skin, and if needed, he'd knock you to the floor. His physical play made him a full-time All-Star and the face of the bad boys' tough identity. Dennis Rodman brought unmatched energy and chaos. Known for his wild style, Rodman was relentless on defense and on the glass. He chased rebounds like his life depended on it, throwing his body all over the court. He was an instigator, an intimidator, and a nightmare for opposing teams. Whatever the Pistons needed, he did it. Rick Mahorn added more muscle. He wasn't flashy, but he was physical and fearless. He was known for causing havoc on the court, and like Bill Laimbeer, he didn't care what anyone thought. He was there to punish opponents. John Saley played a quieter role. He wasn't as aggressive as the others, but his value was just as important. Saley was a steady presence, the guy who kept things grounded when emotions ran hot. Then there was Joe Dumars, calm, quiet, and deadly. A lockdown defender and a clutch shooter. Dumars formed a near-perfect backcourt duo with Isaiah. He didn't talk much, but he let his game speak for him. Together, these players became the face of one of the most feared teams in NBA history. They embraced the hate. They played for each other. And from 1987 to 1991, they dominated. The Pistons made the playoffs every year and reached the NBA Finals 3 times. It was the peak of the bad boys era, a stretch defined by toughness, defense, and an unwavering will to win. By the 1987 season, the Pistons had fully formed into a defensive powerhouse. Under head coach Chuck Daly, they built an identity rooted in toughness, discipline, and physical play. Daly crafted a system that wasn't just about effort, it was about precision. His team played smart, aggressive basketball, and they executed with intensity. The Pistons earned the nickname Bad Boys for a good reason. They attacked like a pack of junkyard dogs, overwhelming opponents and forcing them into submission. That year, they finished with a 54-28 record, locking up the second seed in the Eastern Conference. Their defense, led by Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer, was stifling, holding teams to just 102.4 points per game, one of the best marks in the league. But while the Pistons were climbing, so was Michael Jordan. The 1987-88 season was a statement year. Jordan did the unthinkable. He won MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and All-Star Game MVP, all in the same season.
Jeez.
He also led the Bulls past the first round of the playoffs for the first time in his career, torching the Cleveland Cavaliers with a staggering 45.2 points per game. Momentum was on his side. He looked unstoppable. But then he ran into Detroit. The Pistons had been watching and planning. Just weeks before the playoffs, Jordan dropped 59 points on them in a regular season game. Chuck Daly took that personally. He knew what was coming if they didn't make changes. Speaking to Sports Illustrated in 1989, Daly said, "We made up our minds right there and then that Michael Jordan was not going to beat us by himself again. We had to commit to a total team concept to get the job done." And that's exactly what they did. The Jordan rules were born. The Pistons designed a defensive strategy built to frustrate, wear down, and punish Michael Jordan. They threw everything at him. Joe Dumars and Dennis Rodman, 2 elite defenders with a combined 13 all-defensive team selections, were the primary matchups. But the physical punishment didn't stop with relentless coverage. Jordan got hit on screens, elbowed on drives, and hammered mid-air anytime he tried to soar for a dunk. It was relentless, and it worked. He was held to just 27.4 points per game across the 5-game series, a far cry from his usual dominance. The only time he cracked 30 was in Game 2, when he scored 36 in the Bulls' lone win. In the Pistons' 4 victories in '88, they crushed Chicago by an average of nearly 15 points. It was clear, Jordan and the Bulls still had a long road ahead. But that was just the beginning. The Pistons didn't just beat the Bulls in 1988, they beat them in 89 and again in 90, over and over. They broke Chicago's spirit on the scoreboard and in the soul.
That get back never got no date on it. Just let y'all know that get back don't got no time on it.
The Pistons under coach Chuck Daly had figured out the Bulls and, more specifically, Michael Jordan. The Jordan rules. It wasn't just a defensive scheme, it was psychological warfare. The plan: hit Jordan early, hit him often, and if he gets up, hit him again. Trap him, crowd him, switch up the looks. The goal was simple: slow down Jordan, and you slow down the entire Bulls offense. And it worked. Jordan still got his points sometimes, but Chicago's rhythm broke. Their spacing collapsed, ball movement stalled. The Bulls became too focused on surviving the physicality to actually play their game. The Pistons didn't just want to win, they wanted to suck the life out of you, to frustrate you, to make you dread every possession. And if it meant crossing the line, so be it. Take Game 3 of the 1988 series. Just 1 minute 37 in, Bill Laimbeer set a dirty screen and punched Jordan in the groin. Jordan came back with a right cross, benches cleared, chaos erupted.
Here's a fight right there. Laimbeer and Jordan. Yes, indeed. There are punches thrown. Oakley was coming to the defense of Michael Jordan that time.
Later in that same series, Rick Mahorn laid a hard foul on Jordan, and Charles Oakley exploded in response. What started in the paint ended in front of the scorer's table.
Jordan. Dumars went down, knocked down by Jordan, and Mahorn took Jordan down, and now the Bulls, of course, retaliate. We got a fifth
Bulls coach
Hey, Pete the player that's got up on the bench, man. He done got him a snuck kid. Look at him. Watch him get up right here. Look.
Bulls coach Doug Collins got knocked into the table. Mahorn and Oakley were both ejected and fined. Detroit had made their point, literally by force. And then came Rodman's shove, one of the most vicious plays of the rivalry. A full-speed hit that launched Scottie Pippen into the stands and split his chin open, such that Pippen couldn't even remember where he was. These weren't just fouls, they were flashpoints. The Pistons were in Chicago's head, and for 3 straight years, it worked. But eventually, the bruises hardened, the fear faded, the Bulls stopped flinching. And what came next? It wasn't just revenge, it was something deeper. By the start of the 1990s, the Bulls knew exactly who stood between them and an NBA championship, the Bad Boys Pistons. After years of coming up short, something had to change. That change began on the bench. Chicago promoted Phil Jackson to head coach, and together with assistant coach Tex Winter, began searching for a way to crack Detroit's infamous Jordan rules defense. The answer? The triangle offense. It was complex, position-based system designed to create space, promote ball movement, and take pressure off Jordan. The setup placed players in specific spots, one forward and the center near the low post, the point guard and another forward on the wings, and Jordan, the 2 guard, stationed at the top of the key. The goal was simple: make every player a threat and give the ball handler 4 passing options at all times. Though difficult to master, the triangle's impact was felt quickly. The Bulls won 55 games in 1990 and made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. But once again, the Pistons sent them home. By 1991, the Bulls had reached a breaking point. They knew this was it. If they couldn't get past Detroit now, their window might close. So that summer, they got to work. Michael Jordan added 15 pounds of muscle, determined to absorb contact and fight back. Jordan later said, "I was brutally beaten up, and I wanted to administer pain. I wanted to start fighting back." His mindset became the team's mindset. The Bulls toughened up. They finished the 1990-91 season with a league-best 61-21 record. And most importantly, they beat the Pistons 3 times in the regular season. The same number of wins they'd managed against them in 3 years combined. For the first time in the rivalry, Chicago would have home court advantage. When the teams met again in the Eastern Conference Finals for the 3rd year in a row, this wasn't the same Bulls team. While the Pistons stuck to their rough, punishing defense, the triangle offense began to crack it open. And this time, Jordan was different. He no longer tried to win the series by himself. He listened to Phil Jackson. He passed out of double and triple teams and trusted his teammates. Jackson even installed Scottie Pippen as the point guard to better distribute the ball and break Detroit's pressure. It worked. Jordan still scored, but now others stepped up too. Pippen, in particular, shone, bouncing back from a disappointing playoff run the year before to average 22 points in the series. Pippen said, "You can tell MJ has more confidence in everyone, and that confidence was about to change everything." After 2 convincing wins at Chicago Stadium, the Bulls sent a clear message in Game 3. They weren't just here to compete, they were here to end an era. In front of a hostile Detroit crowd, Chicago took the fight to the Pistons and stole a crucial road win. Then, in Game 4, they didn't just finish the job, they buried the bad boys. The Bulls dominated from start to finish, cruising to a 115-94 win that sealed their first ever trip to the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan led the charge with 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Scottie Pippen added 23 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals. On the other side, not a single Pistons player cracked 20 points. For the first time, it was Detroit that crumbled under pressure, swept in 4 games by a team they had tormented for years. The loss was more than just a defeat, it was a collapse. And with 7.9 seconds left on the clock in Game 4, several Pistons players walked off the court without shaking hands. They passed right by the Bulls bench without a word, heading straight to the locker room. No congratulations, no sportsmanship, just silence and bitterness. The moment sparked a media firestorm and became one of the most iconic and controversial moments in NBA history, because the Pistons didn't just lose the series, they lost their grip on the league, and they lost it without grace. For Michael Jordan and the Bulls, the snub stung. In each of the previous 3 years, they had shaken the Pistons' hand after falling short. This time, when the tables had turned, Detroit couldn't return the respect. Still, the message was clear. A new era had begun. This was the moment the Bulls took over the NBA, the true beginning of their dynasty. Reflecting on that victory, Jordan said, "We had gotten past them, and to me, that was better, in some ways, than winning the championship." And while he's admitted that his hatred for the Pistons still lingers, he also knows that the rivalry forged something powerful. The battles with Detroit built the Bulls' mental toughness. They hardened their resolve, and ultimately, they laid the foundation for one of the greatest dynasties the sport has ever seen. So yes, the bad boys beat Jordan down many times. They tested his body, rattled his mind, and challenged his will. For years, they were the wall he couldn't climb, the team that turned every layup into a bruise, every win into a war. But here's the thing, they didn't break him, they built him. In trying to stop Jordan, they gave rise to something far greater, a fire they couldn't contain. Every hard foul, every handshake snub, every playoff heartbreak, it all forged the version of Jordan the world would come to fear. The Bulls didn't just get past Detroit, they replaced them. So, what's your favorite Bulls vs Pistons memory? Comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for
Yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video, man. If you enjoyed this video, man, let me know. I will react to more of these videos. Man, I'll see y'all next video, man.